goes. This is the Millstone Report. My name is Paul Harrell. As always, we can't do the program without you watching every single day, and I'm very, very glad. That's just a one-man show here. So, man, it's been a wild 24 hours. We got a lot of news to get to. Yesterday, in my afternoon program, the Paul Harrell program, we aired it on X American News and a few other platforms, and it went really well. We talked with our friend Rob Spencer about a lot of stuff. Mainly, we were focused on what's going on in the Middle East and everything, all of the reports that are coming out, and just how fluid the situation is. Reports out now that the United States may actually take action very soon. They may actually bomb Iran. There are people that think that it's imminent. We also have reports coming out that there are last-minute peace negotiations possibly taking place in Oman between Iranian officials and U.S. officials there. Again, these are just reports. I don't know, but you would hope that there would be some sort of peace. Also have some very familiar talking points coming out of the Jerusalem Post claiming that after this supposed regime change, they want to partition the nation of Iraq into... Iraq, sounds familiar, right? The nation of Iran, they want to partition it into factions, which is exactly that was the exact proposal that they decided on in Iraq, which led to decades of tribal conflicts, sectarian violence on the people who live there, millions of refugees, and all of that. And that's why, by the way, that is why the question that Tucker Carlson asked Ted Cruz, and boy, it's really interesting to see the divide here. It's really interesting how many people are trying to run cover for Ted Cruz today because of Tucker Carlson's interview. Kudos to Ted Cruz for even sitting down and doing the interview. I haven't seen the full interview. I think it's out today or later today, but I do have a few highlights that he has released. But that's the whole point of the question of 92 million people in the nation of Iran. What happens with regime change? Nature abhors a vacuum. And the people that live there, the refugee status that will inevitably come for many of them, the sectarian violence that's extreme possibility, and it all goes back to really the same thing that Trump was critiquing in Saudi Arabia. We have that clip for you back last month in May, almost a month ago, where Trump essentially attempts, at least in rhetoric, to confine the failed neo-policy, arrogance, hubris, and pride in the Middle East. That neocon foreign policy tries to consign it to the dustbin of history and pronounce that it doesn't work, it's ineffective, it's arrogant, and it actually leads to a destabilization event in the region. So we'll talk about all of that and more. And I just saw a tweet right before we came on that said, "I'm sick of the Middle East." I agree. I am very tired of hearing about this, very sick of it, but we're going to continue to cover it. But before we do that, we're going to get to some positive news, and that is the news out of the Supreme Court. They have upheld a Tennessee law that seeks to save children, who want to destroy their bodies with chemical castration drugs, puberty-blocking drugs, and the sort. Banning things is, in fact, good sometimes. And the idea of transing children and calling it health care is literally insane. Now, the actual nuts and bolts of this Supreme Court decision, they're not actually addressing the morality of it. I wish they would. But instead, their focus is narrow, and it's narrowly addressing the lawsuit, the argument about whether or not what this law did violated the 14th Amendment and the concept of protected classes. Okay. Nevertheless, we're going to celebrate this victory because this is something that now means that states all across the country can now pass these bans on these drugs for children across the country. And again, this is about stopping child abuse. This is about stopping in many cases, parental sanctioned child abuse. And this is something to celebrate. And it's really a long time. Actually, it's kind of crazy to say it's a long time coming. It feels like the last 10 years have been, quite the slog. But honestly, it's wild how quickly the country as a whole has rejected this barbarism. From the standpoint of, because you would think, yeah, well, it's barbaric, so they would reject it. But every major corporation, every government entity, we're all pushing this. They all have the exact same message, particularly during June. And, it is still Pride Month to some. It is still being observed to some. And, June is the month where the Supreme Court releases their decisions. And so, here we are. I do think it's appropriate, quite appropriate. So let's actually get to the nuts and bolts of this before we dive back into the Middle East, which is not necessarily something I'm wanting to do. Nick Sorter, breaking: the Supreme Court has upheld Tennessee's ban on transgender surgeries and hormone therapies for minors. It was a 6-3 decision, a huge win for children. All states just received the green light to get on board. Fox News headline: SCOTUS rules on state ban on gender transition treatments for minors. In landmark case, petitioners in the case argue that the law violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The issue in the case was whether Tennessee's Senate Bill 1, which prohibits all medical treatments intended to allow a minor to identify with or live as a purported identity inconsistent with the minor's sex, or to treat purported discomfort or distress from a discordance between the minor's sex and asserted identity, violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. That was their argument. But writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts ruled that the law in question is not subject to heightened scrutiny, quote, because it does not classify on any basis that warrant heightened review. He goes on, this case carries with it the weight of fierce scientific and policy debates about the safety, efficacy, and propriety of medical treatments in an evolving field, he said. The voices in these debates raise sincere concerns. The implications for all are profound. So, the frustrating part to me with this case, obviously, I know what I'm doing here. I'm looking a gift horse in the mouth. By the way, that phrase is, I want to inspect the horse's teeth. I just got a horse, but I want to make sure the teeth are just right. So I know I'm criticizing here something that's good, but really and truly, and I know they have to rule based on the merits of the case and what's actually brought before them. But the fact that we can't just call this what it is, child abuse, and child abuse is already illegal, befuddles the mind. Yet here we are. United States versus Skermeti. Skermeti was one of the most closely watched cases on the Supreme Court's term, with potential ripple effects for ongoing legal battles over transgender rights, including bathroom access and participation in school sports. The ruling, Fox News goes on, could also serve as a legal pretext in future cases involving LGBTQ plus RSTLNE, would you like to buy a vowel, protections, including whether sexual orientation qualifies as a protected class on par with race or national origin. Quote, the Equal Protection Clause does not resolve these disagreements, nor does it afford us a license to decide them as we see best, Chief Justice went on. Our role is not to judge the wisdom, fairness, or logic of the law before us, but only, it's a good law, and it is a moral law, by the way, but only to ensure that it does not violate the equal protection guarantee of the 14th Amendment. Having concluded it does not, we leave these questions regarding its policy to the people, their elected representatives, and the democratic process. So, yeah, this is a positive for the 10th Amendment. This is a positive for states' rights, being able to legislate. This is an example of the Supreme Court not doing what they did with Roe v. Wade, by the way. And this was one of my fears. And I talked about this all last year. I did so many shows on this where I said, and I was putting this in the context of, if Kamala Harris were to win again or Biden were to win again, and the Supreme Court gets stacked, or they replace our conservative justices with liberal justices, that we were kind of one election away from getting another Roe versus Wade, but for the trans issue. So back, in 71, 72, really the 60s and the 70s, leading up to the Roe versus Wade decision in 1973, all of the states across the country were in the midst of a debate about what abortion is, what abortion isn't. Is it just a clump of cells, or when does life begin at conception, and that sort of thing. And so all the individual states were having these debates, and they were crafting their own policies based on what they thought was the truth. And then the Supreme Court came in and Johnny swept the legs the entire country and robbed us from having the debate and said, you can't have that debate anymore. This is the law of the land. The Supreme Court not doing that here, not doing that with this case, and that is something that we should all be very thankful for. Because in this instance, and really also with abortion, when you actually look at the science and how much more we know now versus then about heartbeats and, well, really just life beginning at conception, it's an easy thing to be against murder. Likewise, it's an easy thing to come out and say, look, these are children who are avoiding puberty, or who are asking for top surgeries or bottom surgeries when they're minors. And I think the top surgeries have been done a lot more, in many more cases, in minor children. That this is insane, this is barbaric, and this we're not trying to make castration great again. Okay, it's something that's easily rejectable. It's easily seen, and it has been seen by the majority of the country, and it's been rejected. And I would think the 2024 election was a big part of that. They were not going to trans kids and call it health care. Now, I actually think the procedures should be banned outright, regardless of how old you are. I really do, because I think what we're actually doing is we're actually facilitating what I consider to be a mental illness, and I think that's where the focus really needs to be as well. But likewise, I also see how detrimental this case is for the LGBTQ, really the T, but all of it is. It's detrimental because so much of this movement focuses, as we've said before, on looking at kids who have no sexual identity in terms that they're not sexual beings, looking at everything through the lens of sex, because as a society, in our wicked state, we actually are beginning to view everything about sex, everything is about your lust, like that's what defines you. And so people looking at kids and putting this ideology on kids, it actually helps preserve this LGBTQ ideology, because it kind of depends on it depends on the conversion of the children from straight couples, from normal couples. Their movement, and that's why they go after the schools, their movement can't survive if you do away with that. So getting rid of this concept of puberty blockers for kids is a big victory and a big win, and it shows that states can continue to do this. One of the people who was instrumental in this is Matt Walsh. There's no getting around. Not that I would want to get around, but like there's no way to escape the truth, and he deserves credit for this with using his platform, which is much, 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 much larger than somebody like me, to get this into the national conversation. And one of the ways he did it was he started by exposing what happened at Vanderbilt University and the hospital there. And so, and obviously then that led to his documentary, What is a Woman?, where he interviewed all these, liberals and tried to ask them what it was, or what a woman is. Matt Walsh, upon learning of the news of the Supreme Court decision this morning, wrote, 3 years ago, we launched our investigation into Vanderbilt's child mutilation practices. We rallied in the state capitol. Our lawmakers responded with a law banning child mutilation in the state. Today, the Supreme Court upheld our law, which means child mutilation can be banned anywhere and everywhere in the country, and should be. This is a truly historic victory, and I'm grateful to be part of it, along with so many others who have fought fearlessly or have fought relentlessly for years. And so speaking of his pronouncement about every state in the country can now do this, This is already the map. I think this is the current map. AJ Huber posted this on X, gender-affirming youth care bans in the United States. So, I mean, right now, the states that have outright bans, I'll list my home state of Arkansas first. Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, Iowa, Oklahoma, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Arizona. Right now they have all-out bans. They've banned gender-affirming youth care. Quote, and by the way, the fact that we use that term, gender-affirming care, is insane. We don't need to use that term. It's child abuse, okay? We've banned child abuse in these states. Now, there's other states out there considering bans, and I guess Texas is one of them, Kansas, Wyoming, Oregon, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, West Virginia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And then we have like, what is this one? Has a partial ban. So the state of Georgia has a partial ban, and then the states that you would assume have no ban or they have no ban or has protections even for the trans patients are Louisiana, Illinois, Minnesota, New England, New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, California, and Washington, and Alaska. So also Hawaii is considering a ban right now. So it's kind of the usual suspects, but now I would imagine that this is going to turn a lot redder as the years roll by as a result of this landmark decision. So yeah, that's the good news. And speaking of that, so I mentioned earlier that there still are Pride festivals going on. There's one Pride event in there's one Pride event in Mooresville, North Carolina. And somebody named Nelson Paul took a photo of a vendor at the event. And it's a bunch of millstones. It's millstones that are painted in the trans colors with the Bible verse Luke 17:2, Revelation 18:21. They're calling it First Amendment concrete, but these are concrete millstones, at least from what I'm seeing here, being sold at with a cross there. You see at a Pride event. So quite appropriate, and also, you know, it's having to do with the namesake of this program. So there you go. That's that's what's going on there. Folks, it's time that I tell you about Redvive Health and the great folks over at redvivehealth.org/Paul. I'm going to throw the number up there, 866-726-8483. That's 866-726-8483. And to join me now to talk more about the healing power of red light, once again, I want to welcome Dr. Rahul Desai is back with us. Dr. Desai, welcome, sir. How are you?
Good, Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really enjoying the fact that this audience is learning more about the power of red light because they're buying these products. And I think that's really fantastic and something that needs to continue. I wanted to have you on today to talk about the benefit. Well, first of all, millions of Americans, I myself included, have struggled with sleep issues from time to time. Whether you're struggling falling asleep, whether you're or some people can fall asleep but they can't stay asleep. That one I think is the most maddening. But red light scientifically is proven to help with sleep cycles and help you get deep sleep. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's a really powerful tool. One of the things that when I started using photobiomodulation 9 or 10 years ago, that was the first thing that I noticed, that my sleep dramatically improved. And it was that evening. So I went and did a red light session. I used the Aura Ring. And the next day, I mean, I felt really good. The sleep was great. And when I looked at my metrics, they were off the charts. I mean, huge 300% improvement in my heart rate variability and some of the measures that talk about quality of sleep. And it was really interesting. And a lot of our patients and our clients mentioned that it's one of the first things. I feel better. Even if they don't have the metrics, they'll notice their sleep better. So how does that actually work scientifically? And if you think about it, we've spoken about this before. Red and near infrared wavelengths of light, they naturally occur at dawn and dusk. that happens. So there is something called circadian rhythms or circadian entrainment. When we get exposed to those wavelengths, our body's tuned to it. It knows it. We're supposed to be outside more. We're really stuck indoors so much that we lose that circadian rhythm. People travel time zones. They lose that circadian rhythm. It can be thrown off by stress, abnormal hormones, too much work, too many late nights, too many early mornings. All of those things throw off our circadian rhythm and our balance. And something that brings us back into alignment or entrainment is red light. So if you go out and you experience a beautiful sunset at the ocean, I mean, even thinking about that, it starts to create different hormones and the neurotransmitter release, and gets you in a state of the parasympathetic state, calmness, relaxation. I mean, just feel that warmth, even thinking about it. And that's what the red light and near infrared light does. It stimulates this innate ancient memory in our body, and we release more melatonin naturally. We release growth hormone. There's a spike after getting red light in the evening. We balance cortisol, which is a stress hormone. We modulate that, and that evens out. And so it prepares our body for sleep. It's just like if you went out and had that beautiful sunset and that red light that comes through, that's what happens. And so our body's built for it. And so now we're just supplementing it. It's like having that supplement at home. And there's pathways through the eyes, pathways through the chest, abdomen, and even some acupuncture points like the back of the knees. If you shine red light and the near infrared light for a few minutes in the back of the knees, that actually will help. It's been shown to help with sleep improvement.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I certainly noticed a benefit when you say it's like the first thing. That was the first thing I noticed was, okay, I'm getting to sleep easier. I'm actually tired, and staying asleep, feeling well rested. And then when you also then do it in the morning, so you wake up in the morning and you go sit in front of it for 10 minutes or so, the energy that I feel throughout the day is noticeable. And it's palpable. It's like, it helps wake you up. I would also say this, and I'll let you respond to that, but I also say this. The other day, I was, I've got a giant barbecue apparatus. I'm an aspiring pit master, but with that comes some heavy equipment. There's like a 1/2-inch steel plate that I had to move to set something up. And when I did it, I just kind of tweaked my back a little bit, and it's kind of a reoccurring injury that I'll do, and it's inside. It's not like on the outside muscles. It's like inside lower back. I went and sat in front of the red light. I knew what I'd done. Normally this takes 2 weeks for it to really go away. I did one treatment, and I immediately felt better. And then I woke up the next day and it was gone. So these machines really do have the power, to penetrate. The red light and then the near infrared light really does penetrate, stimulates that mitochondria. I mean, I'm pain free right now, and I would not be without those panels.
Yeah, I have the same. I have a low back issue. I have degenerative. I know the scientific terms, right? Being a pain specialist and a regenerative radiologist. So I have arthritis in the low back. I have a disc issue, a little bit of slippage, and have had chronic pain over the years. We've talked about this before. I've been using the red and near infrared light on a daily basis in the morning, getting to the mitochondrial stimulation. I'll get back to that. And in the evening. And what I've noticed is my back pain's gone, and it's so much more resilient. And it took time. It took, dosing. And the first few weeks, it was better. After a couple of months of continuous use, it was even better. And then after, 6 months, I didn't even remember I had the pain. And it's not there. And that's the amazing thing, that each time you do this, you're getting a little bit healthier, a little bit stronger, a little bit more resilient. And so the things that you do, it'll be interesting to talk to you, Paul, in 6 months as you're using this, you're going to move that piece of equipment or whatever you're doing, or you're going to do the things that might have injured it, and it won't happen.
Wow.
And sometimes it's hard that you almost have that feeling of like, oh, I'm scared to do something. And then you do it and you're like, I'm not hurting, right? I'm feeling more resilient. I'm feeling stronger. And that's true healing. And we see that with regenerative medicine. And this is just another piece of that. So it's super fascinating. Another real quick, in the morning, like that sunrise, right? Our bodies are tuned to that. So it's super interesting. There's been studies that show the mitochondria in our body actually respond differently to the same medicine, the same light. The medicine is the wavelength, so that red and near infrared light that's coming through. In the morning when it hits us, our bodies actually create much more ATP than if that's our energy source of the cell. So it's responding in a different way. So when our body's so intelligent that when we get that natural light in the morning, it starts to get ready for the day. So you get all this increased energy and ATP production. It responds that you don't get that in the evening. So the body realizes, hey, I'm going to go to sleep soon. If you're on a normal sleep pattern, you get that evening light. It's the same light. It's just a different time of day, but our body, it responds in a very different manner and allows us to get that really deep, restorative, healthy sleep. And when you get that deep sleep, you get rid of all the brain toxins, the things that we worry about with brain health, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, a lot of these proteins that sit in our CSF that need to get flushed out. They only happen in that deep sleep. So if we get more deep sleep, you get rid of those toxins, and that actually, you're creating a healthier environment for your brain. So it's really powerful stuff.
You said something just a second ago about true healing. And so, and we're talking about, I know we're talking about sleep, but we were just talking about pain management. So I want to talk about pain management.
Sure.
There's a conventional way of thinking, right? You go to the doctor, I'm in pain, you mentioned arthritis, and the doctor is going to prescribe you drugs. I mean, that's almost always what's going to happen. Or maybe even if you hurt yourself, like, I didn't hurt myself that severe, but, eventually they put you on a pipeline that brings you closer to surgery, right? And this is all, and I'm not, downplaying surgery. Sometimes it's necessary. I actually have a lot of respect for surgeons. But this technology is meeting resistance. I know not all doctors have resisted. A lot of doctors recommend it. You're one of them. Others are. When we talked to Charlie Lawrence, the 50-mile world record holder, his doctor actually recommended Red Vive and the red light panel. So there are great doctors out there. But there is this hamster wheel that I've talked about that, whether it's the medical industrial complex and big pharma, and a technology like this that I believe can actually truly heal you, especially when you keep using it, is something, and it's a one-time purchase. It's something that I think the medical industrial complex that runs on the dollar, the almighty dollar, and they have their they have these different avenues. They're resistant to it, aren't they? They don't really want, a lot of them, they don't want this technology to be mainstream because it means they have to rethink their business model.
100%. I mean, it's a disruption, right? Any established model that's making people money, and you disrupt that, that's a threat. And at the end of the day, that's what's driving a lot of healthcare. Unfortunately, it's not outcomes. It's not how patients are doing. It's not that individual that's struggling to have a high quality of life. It's about making the buck, right? It's about making a dollar. And that's really unfortunate. I mean, even the term pain management, like you go to a pain management doctor, what does that mean? It's managing your pain. It's not fixing it. It's not curing it. It's managing it. And that is the mantra. That's a thought process that's been delivered to us by the medical system, is that, if you have pain or you have a degenerative disc issue or you have arthritis in your back and your knee and your shoulder, anywhere, you're kind of screwed, right? You have arthritis, too bad. Let's try to mask it. Let's try to cover it up. Or if that doesn't work with, medications, with steroids, with management, with burning the nerves, all the things that we take for granted, that standard of care, that's what's being delivered. And it's not to heal. It's not to fix. It's to kick the can down the road. And if that doesn't work, then we have surgery. And even that doesn't work, right? We can replace the joint. We can fuse your spine. We can do those things. All of these things are feeding the machine, right? If you look at regenerative medicine that's trying to heal, that changes the game, right? That's something that you can do. It may not be a one and done, but sometimes over time you can actually stimulate healing. And we're seeing this. And there's a lot of resistance because it's scary for the establishment. Hey, we want to keep people sick. Like, how are we going to sell our drugs? How are we going to, prescribe these pain medicines? If people are truly healing and getting out of pain, that's our market. So it's a scary proposition. And there are, large pharma companies, there's lobbyists, there's a lot of push against things that could potentially help and work. And unfortunately, that's the system that we're living in. So just because it's not covered by insurance, just because it's maybe outside of the mainstream, or your physician that you go to, your primary care, or the orthopedists, that they don't know about it, it's because they're in a system. They get fed a line, right? And we have to be thoughtful. We have to be intelligent. That's where, a lot of accountable, intelligent people, that's why we're on this show, like educating folks that there are alternatives, right? So I'll get off my soapbox.
No. You're exactly right, and you said exactly what I wanted you to say, because I think when it comes from somebody like you, people listen. So, folks, the link is redvivehealth.org/Paul. That's redvive, VIVE, health.org/Paul. And you will get the 15% discount. I want to remind everybody that we also have 60-day money-back guarantee. We also have 0% interest financing as well. And so I want you to take advantage of this. I want you to do your research and all of the great information that you guys have about how this is scientifically backed. And so, Dr. Desai, it's always great to have you on the program. Oh, and I also want everybody to understand the number. If you don't want to mess with the website, all you got to do is mention my name, Paul, and call the number 866-726-8483. Not in that order. Do the number first, then mention my name, Paul, and they'll get you fixed up. Dr. Desai, it's a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much, and we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paul.
All right. Thank you. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We're going to hear from our friend Mike Lindell, who got some good news in court the other day. So good news for Mike. Back here in just a moment.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
All right, so that's MyPillow.com and promo code PH. Big summer savings, up to 80% off. Make sure you use that code. Also, folks, we want to also remind you that if you want life-saving medication, you don't have to go through the normal process.
Life can be pretty unpredictable, filled with good days and not so good days. And sometimes, the only difference between the two is your level of preparedness. The Jace case lets you be better prepared for whatever comes your way. It contains antibiotics and other prescription medications so that you aren't caught unprepared. With the Jace case, you are able to get your prescription medication before the unpredictable happens, allowing you to turn those not so good days into great ones. Go to jace.com now and get your own Jace case.
So when you go to Jace case or jace.com, you want to make sure to use the promo code Paul, and you'll save some money there. They're a great company, and they really are doing a lot of great work, especially in the wake of COVID, where all the supply chains and everything that got totally exposed for being inefficient. So you want to make sure that you do that. And, folks, finally, the rest of this program brought to you by Curable Premium Health, and we'll tell you more about Curable CBD products here in just a moment. But before we get to that, let's talk about what's going on in the Middle East. We're going to get to this here in just a minute. Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz showdown. Jack Posobiec went on Steve Bannon's The War Room and reported that there may be peace negotiations going on right now in Oman.
This morning, we've heard that Iran has reached out. So President Trump comes out yesterday, says unconditional surrender on Iran, gives them 24 hours. This morning, Iran has reached out, and just as War Room was getting started this morning over in Iran, one thing that we've noticed on, and I'm just checking, some of my feeds here on this as well, 2 Iranian government planes have departed Iran. They've flown essentially right over the Strait of Hormuz, very short, it's only about 21 miles, flown over to Oman. Now, remember, Oman was the place where those negotiations were originally scheduled to take place on Sunday. The negotiators, as we're told, may have been killed on Friday. So that meeting was not taking place. But now here we are. It is Wednesday here in the U.S., Wednesday evening over in Iran. And it's possible that some negotiations could potentially be underway right now as we're seeing those government flights. And
So we can hope that there will be even though this has already gotten incredibly violent, we can hope there would be a peace process that's still possible, some way to stop the killing and yet another regime change war that has been going on my whole life. It's just different Middle Eastern countries. And that philosophy is not being rejected. The Jerusalem Post has written an editorial asking President Trump to forge a Middle East coalition for Iran's partition. They want to listen to this. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Forge a Middle East coalition for Iran's partition. Encourage long-term plans for a federalized or partitioned Iran, recognizing that Khamenei's theocratic regime cannot be reformed. Offer security guarantees to Sunni, Kurdish, and Balochi minority regions willing to break away. Now, if that strategy sounds familiar to you, it's because it would be just like everything else: talking points, weapons of mass destruction, or versus nuclear bombs. If that sounds familiar to you, that's because that's what happened in Iraq, dividing up Iraq, which led to years of terrorism, sectarian violence, and refugees fleeing the country, Christians being murdered. And so the idea here is we're supposed to ignore all that. We're supposed to ignore our record when it comes to this type of intervention. So on that, it was a very interesting exchange. I haven't seen the full podcast yet, but kudos to Ted Cruz for sitting down with Tucker Carlson. I actually can't believe he did it. It hasn't, from what we've seen, it didn't go well. Ted Cruz kind of upset that Tucker Carlson released a portion that kind of makes him look like, I don't know, somebody who's callous or cavalier about this idea of regime change in Iran by not knowing the population. And I've already seen people out there saying, well, Paul, what's the difference between what Tucker Carlson did? Well, let's get to the clip first. First of all, he says, did a long interview. Ted Cruz says, did a long interview with Tucker. He released a snippet playing a gotcha on the population of Iran. I declined to play that silly game. Watch the full 2 hours. So what exactly is he talking about? Here is the exchange.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
This is
Israel.
high stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
So here's the thing. This is I've already heard people out there saying, "Oh, this is exactly what Douglas Murray did to comic Dave Smith when Douglas Murray went on Joe Rogan and wouldn't even entertain Smith's arguments because he asked Smith, have you ever been to Israel? And Smith said no. And so then Murray, went on about how, well, have you ever been? How can you speak to someone when you've never been? People are trying to make the equivalency to that, having an opinion about another country without having been there, versus Tucker Carlson asking, wait a second, you want regime change, but you don't know how many people are there? Or and people are trying to say that's the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's not even close to the same thing, and I'll tell you why. Number one, and by the way, when Ted Cruz was like, what difference would it make 80 or 70 or 90? I don't know. I think that was more of a debate tactic. Like he now knows it's 92 million. And so was he even in the ballpark? And in Cruz's mind, we'll never know. It's probably pointless to even speculate. But here's the reason why, not knowing, okay? We are being told, and this happens in any civilization when you're ready to go to war, you're going to tell your people who to hate. That's what you're going to do. And you're going to dehumanize them. And when you do that and you dehumanize the other side, and I'm not for Iran. I know they're not a benign, force in the world, and they're not, good by any stretch of the imagination. But what I'm saying is when you don't know 92 million, it becomes easier to skirt the moral question about what decision you should make. And in a world, look what Tim Pool says. This is a good point. He says, the reason I and others such as Tucker know these things is because when the U.S. plans regime change, you want to predict the outcome. So this is a vital statistic that you actually need to know if you're just, but when you're, but when you're trying to just kind of play geopolitical risk, you can, like, there's no risk to you. There's no, Ted Cruz's kids aren't going to go fight this war if that's what it comes to. Tim Pool saying massive civil war, refugee crisis, and decades of insurgent terror would be the result. That's the point. And if you've got 92 million, you should know that number. Okay? As somebody who is as hawkish as Ted Cruz is, yes, he should know the number. Absolutely. And he should have thought about what happens in the vacuum, because nature abhors a vacuum. You should think about that. And the fact that he doesn't just shows that he's more about the talking points and getting the end result without really thinking about this in any sort of three-dimensional way. And that's very, it is what it is. Make your own decisions. To me, it's just embarrassing. This is one of 100 men in America elected to this, sacred chamber, the United States Senate. And he doesn't know these things, and yet he's one of the biggest supporters of it. And so that's why it matters. And people are all out trying to defend Ted Cruz. Those people that want war in the Middle East and they want regime change in Iran, they are trying to run cover and circle the wagons based on this clip and, make fun of Tucker. But honestly, I don't think it's going to work. How many views does this thing have at this point? 25.1 million people. 26.4 million, it just updated, have seen this little clip. So that's why you have all these people circling the wagons. Then we have this clip about Israel spying on the United States. Listen to this.
Does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
And that's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all... Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us, and I'm not...
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that, and by the way, I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know. Hold on, I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion.
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be.
That's a very good question. In light of what we know about Waltz in light of in light of what we know about the Signal Gate chat and which version of the app Waltz was using. Something to think about.
Closely allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clearest...
But I just want to stop on this fine for a second. That it takes place, as you know, and including on the President of the United States and several precedents. And I just want to know if that's okay and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. Is that... It's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't seem able to say that.
Boy, I can't wait. I can't wait to watch this interview. And, you know, the other thing about this, the whole spying thing, and not just on American presidents, but it's illegal for the United States government to spy on its citizens without a warrant, without the certain legal requirements that you have to do that. And so it's illegal. But if a government, nation state, any nation state, but in this particular question we're talking about Israel, if Israel does that and spies on American citizens, there's nothing we can do. There's no legal recourse we have. And then if Israel, for some reason, shares that information with the U.S. government, technically the U.S. government hasn't broken the law, have they? So that's another whole thing that needs to be talked about here, about how we get around the Fourth Amendment by, you know, sending our money to foreign governments and then having those foreign governments do things that our government couldn't do, is another question entirely that also needs to be talked about. And then we have this. I just wanted to play this in light of all of the war and all the regime change that we're talking about now. This was Donald Trump just a month ago.
And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western intervention.
In Saudi Arabia. This is Trump in Saudi Arabia.
Flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions and charting your own destinies in your own way. It's really incredible what you've done. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly.
So that was a month ago. A month later, if Iran turns in to Iraq 2.0, history is going to have some questions. History's going. Mark Levin, when this tour was going on and that speech was given, people like Mark Levin were going out of their minds with rage. A month later, we're now talking about an imminent strike on Iran from the United States. A month later, now that's what we're talking about. So somebody nuance it for me. This is what I asked yesterday. I would love to know. Is there some difference? Is there going to be some different outcome? I pray that there is. But how do you go from that a month ago to where we are now? I tell you how one of the reasons you get there is you're trying to negotiate peace. He also said in that speech he's going to negotiate with Iran, and guess what happens? We were going to negotiate last Sunday, and then on Friday, Israel attacked, and negotiations were over. By the way, speaking of Levin, there are some incredible There's some incredible AI-generated photos. Mark Levin attacking Tucker and Alex Jones. So Alex Jones responds with Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin smiling at each other in a hot tub. Also, then there's this one of Hannity in a rainbow jacket with Levin in a rainbow jacket while bombs go off in the city. hugging it out. There's some zingers out there, I have to say. But here's people circling the wagons. Eric Erickson circling the wagons, putting out this meme. What is the population of the Death Star? Tucker Carlson asking that of Luke Skywalker, right? Obviously, the Death Star was destroyed, you see. Totally annihilated, by the way. That's actually kind of scary. But here's the point. Not caring about the population size of a nation you seek to destroy sure makes it easier to dehumanize them, which also makes it easier to destroy them without weighing the morality of the decision. At least that's my take on the issue. Andrew Klavan out circling the wagons, making fun of Tucker about this, about the question about foreign governments spying on the president, specifically in this case, Israel. And then the last clip that we have is why is Senator Ted Cruz explaining why he supports Israel and uses the Bible to do it. And so we're going to listen to this portion, which so far is the most interesting of the interview to me, because this is a view that millions of evangelical Christians believe, that a verse in Genesis referring to Abraham is the reason why America must support the modern nation state of Israel. Listen to this.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elected.
He's the prime minister.
Right.
What?
But just like, America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
You believe
Israel.
That's what God was talking about
Yes.
in Genesis.
I do, but
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now, there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70 years ago.
I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay, Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is.
I really want to hear the rest of that exchange in particular, but what Ted Cruz said there is actually echoed by millions of evangelical Christians. The actual verse is Genesis 12. Genesis chapter 12, verse 3. We'll start in verse 1. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation. And I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse, and in you," listen carefully, "all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So this is the verse that Senator Ted Cruz says biblically he is required that God requires Ted Cruz to support the modern nation state of Israel based on this verse that is specifically talking about Abraham. Now, there's a song. So I just to be clear, I disagree with Ted Cruz's interpretation of this verse. I do not think that this verse is talking about the modern nation state of Israel. I think this verse is talking about Abraham and the covenant of grace and the fulfillment that we see in Jesus Christ, in his life, in his burial, in his resurrection, and in his current reign in heaven at the right hand of the Father. But to further illustrate my point, maybe you disagree with me, but I bet many of you out there, Christians, you grew up singing this song. Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm, left foot. Turn around, sit down. You guys remember that song, don't you? So in keeping with this, I think it's apropos, and this is going to all make sense. Protestia decided to post this clip of a church at a Pride Month anthem. A Pride anthem that they wanted to sing in church. So keep in mind what we just talked about. Father Abraham had many sons. This prophecy given to Abraham, and he will be a great name. So keep all that in mind as we listen to this, because it's going to be appropriate.
So today we're going to learn a new song. This song is going to be a pride anthem, but I wanted to give you guys some time to warm up so that when you sing it on Pride, you can sing it loud and clear. All right? No. We're singing first, people. We're singing first, people.
Welcome to the Gynocracy, but I digress. Listen.
As you like, all right?
Excited.
I am as God created me. I am the light in this world. I am as God created me. I am.
All right, so you get it. I'm not going to melt your ears anymore. I am as God created me. I am the light of this world. These are, remember the I am statements in the New Testament? I am the light. I am the bread. So this is blasphemous, right? Because they're using this to talk about how essentially, they can ignore the passages of the Bible about sexual morality and everything else. It's all about me. It's not about actually worshiping the Creator, right? It's I am. So that got me thinking about this verse in John, and what. And this verse is incredible. This chapter is incredible. So we're talking about John chapter 8. So John chapter 8, all the way down in verse 48. Before Abraham was, I am. The Jews answered him, "Are we not right in saying that you are a Samaritan and have a demon?" Jesus answered, "I do not have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. Yet I do not seek my own glory. There is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death." The Jews said to him, Now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died, as did the prophets. Yet you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, who died, and the prophets died? Who do you make yourself out to be? So Jesus answered. He says, if I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say he is our God. But you have not known him. I know him. If I were to say that I do not know him, I would be a liar like you. But I do know him, and I keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and was glad. So the Jews said to him, you are not yet 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham? Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. So they picked up stones to throw at him. But Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. I get it. There are millions of evangelicals who I consider to be brothers who do agree with Senator Ted Cruz about that. They literally do. They believe that verse in Genesis commands us to support the modern nation state of Israel. And kudos to Ted Cruz for coming out and saying that, and because I think that's something that needs to be. He literally said it, the modern nation state of Israel. Even Tucker Carlson tried to say, "Hey, look, maybe is it not just talking about? Maybe it's just talking about the Jewish people." No. Modern nation state of Israel. So, that's certainly something that's going to be debated. But what I would say here, as I've gone way over my time, is maybe, just maybe, it might be a good idea to look into something called covenant theology instead of a dispensational theology. But it is kind of wild, though, to think that that interpretation of Scripture, that Ted Cruz thinks that it's the right thing to do, and that he's commanded by the Bible to support the modern nation state of Israel. That is an incredible thing to think about when we're talking about. People's lives are hanging in the balance right now. In many, many ways, whether it's sleeper cell attacks or whether it's full-on boots on the ground like Lindsey Graham wants. I would say, regardless of all of our disagreements, one thing we should do, and we should continue to do, is pray. Pray for peace. Don't despair, because the God of heaven is in charge of all of this, regardless of the outcome, regardless of how terrible or great the outcome might be. That's all the time that I have for this edition of the Millstone Report. I want you to know that Curable Premium Health and the good folks at Curable CBD have incredible products that can help you fight inflammation and pain. And if you've never researched the incredible benefits of CBD, I would encourage you to do so. But those of you that do already take CBD, I would encourage you, if you've not looked at Curable, I want you to look at their process, how they grow it, how they don't use chemicals, pesticides, and things like that. But I just don't want you to get bad products. And sometimes, some gas stations sell CBD. I just wouldn't buy your CBD from a gas station. The potency of this stuff is incredible. The muscle cream is great. I want you to try it all. Go to curable.com. The tinctures are great that you drop under your tongue for external or internal use. Get your CBD from Curable. Curable.com, Kuribl, Kuribl.com. Use promo code Paul20 and save 20%. God bless everybody out there watching. Unless I'm providentially hindered, I will be back here tomorrow delivering you the news. Talk to you soon.
The very foundation of the Christian faith is based